To all of you. This is one of the sessions that EPMO operations team wants to conduct in order to bring in some special topics for your knowledge, right? The idea behind is that the special topics will be helping the project managers, group product managers to navigate through the project life cycle, starting from the inception all the way to the post-deployment. What all the different teams that we have to engage, get their tasks done, review with them the documents that we need to create for them, and also to get their approvals to pass all those gates, right? So you all know, most of you will know that this stage gate process is a framework that we are all adopting for our project execution. As you all know, that stage gate process contains some stages and then some gates that you have to pass through. So each stage needs to have some reviews, some deliverables, some approvals to be conducted and to be obtained and to be presented at the gate through a stage gate scorecard and then move to the next level. So our effort here is to make you aware of different teams that need to be interacted with, follow their processes, get their reviews and approvals so that the project life is smooth and you pass through those gates, right? So we have multiple teams that we have to interact. As a project manager, you will be looking at cybersecurity team, SOX team, we'll be looking at the testing COE, integration COE, business continuity and disaster recovery COE, audit, whatnot. So all these teams are having their own processes, but they will be coming into our SGP framework at different points of time with different processes of their own. So in order to facilitate the knowledge about all these teams, their own processes and how we are getting embedded into SGP, so we started this sequence of trainings. So the first training is now what we are going to have in next a minute. Yul Pinay from cybersecurity team is going to give us what all the points is looking, an interaction between the project team and the cybersecurity team, okay? At different levels, at different stages, what all the interactions that a cybersecurity team-wise we should be aware of so that we can interact with them, okay? So that's the ground, that's a foundation for this series of training sessions. Yul, it's all you now to navigate us through the cybersecurity related interactions.
Sure, and thank you very much. I don't know if I'm going to be able to cover all the points, but I'm going to try to do my best. Usually, and the information I'm going to share with you, I'm going to use some recycled material because we developed this material about, I want to say maybe 2 years ago, Naren. I'm not sure. That's when we did the Lunch and Learns. And I think when Sandy and we were trying to put together some guidance and stuff like that. So I'm going to recycle those. They will show some old stuff, but I think they're still good. They're still valid. We're still doing those processes. We are actually going to be making more improvement into that, which I will talk about at the end. But at the very beginning, let me just share this. I'm hoping that I'm not messing up with what's coming up later. But what I'm going to be talking about is this area right here, the cyber risk assessment, right? The security architecture review is done also by CSRC, but that's under a different manager. That's on Luke's Luke Kruger group. He's the cyber architect manager, and his group is the one that do the security architecture review. And then he has also the security architecture approval here, sign off. If you notice, these two areas are on the design phases. My group gets involved in the cyber risk assessment, and that's what I'm going to be talking about now. And this is usually done at the RFP process and also in the RITM process. So I'm going to just jump and try to share that with everybody. Naren, is that what you wanted me to talk about, right?
Yeah. Just to brief a little bit more on what you all said, right? The cybersecurity team consists of multiple towers under themselves, and they interact with our SGP process at multiple levels and multiple stages. So what Yul is going to talk to us is the first interaction that is going to happen at the project initiation level. When we start engaging vendors, we want to bring the vendors or vendor resources to work on our projects. How do we interact with the security team, right? What clearances we should get, and what approvals we need to get from the cybersecurity team. This is the first interaction in a project lifecycle.
Okay, thank you. And the information I'm sharing with you, we already have it published and it's in the source. Everybody can see my screen, right? I'm sharing, I didn't ask, but I'm sure everybody can see it. Okay, perfect. So this information is readily available in the source. This is where I'm presenting to you today. Again, this material was developed a while ago. We keep making updates, but it is still being, it is good material to review and to share and to continue using. So this is, so the first form, and I think it's better to do a workflow. And this is the workflow right here. So the first form that needs to be filled out, and when you're starting a project, is what, and you want to engage us, right? Is what we call the SIVR form, which is the Sensitive Information Vendor Risk Form. This is a short form that basically gives us an idea of what is the risk level that we are anticipating to have with the vendor. Usually the risk level is mostly calculated by what type of data we are sharing with the vendor. This right here in the source, there's a lot of information as to what is information that we're looking for. There's detail of what you need. And I just want to scroll down here. There's also different procurement process that IT gets involved. And here it gives you a chart. When do you need the questionnaire, the SIVR form, and when we don't need it. I'm just going to open, and here's a FAQ if you have additional question after I'm done. I'm just going to open the PowerPoint presentation. Let me see if I can do that. If I do that, can you see? No, you can't see the PowerPoint presentation. Let me just share that. Okay, so this is the form that I said that I'm going to recycle. So what is the SIVR? It's basically the SIVR is just a quick form to give CSRC an idea of what exactly you're going to be working on. The more detail you provide us, the best it is for us to do a quick turnaround on the assessment. Any questions that are not completely filled out on the form is just going to slow down the process. So to begin with, we assess the, and this is again the same workflow that was on the source. So basically, when you're sending in the SIVR, you're sending it to this distribution list that you have here. We review the SIVR, and I'll go in details what exactly is inside the SIVR is in the next couple of slides. But I just want to show you the workflow. So once you send us the SIVR, if you have anything on privacy, it's also included in the same form, and it goes to the privacy group. And let's see that Newark, the vendor's assessment is my team. We are constantly reviewing anything that gets sent to here. We will review it and assess it. Once the SIVR is reviewed, we determine what kind of questions, what is the level of questionnaire that we need from that vendor. If the vendor is a low risk, that gets automatically approved. If it's a higher risk, meaning we are sharing information, there's a higher risk to the company, that gets assessed, and then we will require a vendor to fill out the vendor questionnaire. The vendor questionnaire gets filled out again by the vendor, and in that questionnaire, we actually have question assessing what type of security controls that vendor has. In addition, we request to provide us with a SOC report of the vendor. And a lot of times we even ask for a network or a diagram or some sort of implementation diagram of what is being done. And that will also help us understand what is being, what is the request for, what exactly is going to be implemented, and if the vendor has the sufficient control. Once we do that, once we done our work, then it gets approved. Like I said, on the stage gate, once it gets approved by my team, doesn't mean that everything is approved by cybersecurity. There's also the design phase, which the architects have to review and make sure that what's being implemented is being implemented with the sufficient security controls. And in the design phase is when they look and say, okay, how is the data being transported? How is this going to be utilized? What is the interface, and so on? That level of detail, we're not going to be able to get it at the initial stages. At the initial stages, we're just making sure the vendor has the controls in place that we are required before we even start. A lot of people send us multiple vendors, which we don't prefer, but they also looking at say, okay, we need to know if any of these vendors, there's a problem with any of this vendor. And a lot of times we are able to see that from the SOC report. The SOC report, if you're not familiar, is basically the vendors, when they're providing services, they have to have what they call I forget all the acronyms, but it's a SOC, what we prefer is a SOC 2 report. Basically, a third party, an auditor firm, Deloitte, Ernst & Young, audits the vendor, and making sure that they have the controls in place, and it's an on-site audit. And what they come up out of that is a SOC report, which we review and making sure that everything was checked off and everything looks okay. So moving on with the SIVR, let me just, so like I said, the emails is completed the form, it goes to the compliance group, and it also goes to our group. This is the CSRC group, my team. You see that some of the slides is part of when we were part of IT, and you will see that in the next couple of slides. So the SIVR detail process. So basically, the first, the SIVR form has 2 tabs. The first tab asks these questions. I get tons of questions as to, this is not a technology solution. But basically, I know it's confusing when it says technology, but basically, if you're in IT and you got a request to implement something, then guess what? It is a technology solution. Anything else is not. For example, if we get a vendor that is installing poles, obviously that's not a technology solution. I used to have the phrase of, if we are buying trash cans, that's definitely not a technology solution. If we are buying smart trash cans, then that's a technology solution. I get tons of questions about people saying, oh, they mark on these questions no, and then they stop right there. So obviously, anything related to IT, it is a technology solution. So once you answer all these questions, there's a second tab that gets filled out. The second tab is in more detail. And again, this PowerPoint presentation is already in the source. You can go in there and look it up, and it's all loaded, so I don't have to distribute it. But basically, these are the questions. The first couple of questions, the first couple of questions has to relate it to the project and who is this is mostly for the privacy. What is the information that we are sharing with the vendor? The second question, okay, this is I'm sorry, this is for some reason, this is not in order. Oh no, it is in order. Does this expression include leads? Is this the technology from, yeah, this is the top questions. This is in more details, and this is the technology question that I was mentioning to you. Sorry about that. Then once you answer these questions right here, these 5 questions, then there's a second tab, and this is where it gets into the more detail. This whole section right here has to do with privacy. if anything, are we sharing any social security? Are we sharing anything that is sensitive information, sensitive protected information, or PII information? And this right here, it goes into the, if you answer no to all of this, then you don't have to send it to the, you don't have to send it to the, what's this? Give me a second. You don't, if you answer no to all those questions, then you don't have to send it to the compliance group, the compliant privacy group. But if you answer yes to any of those questions right here, then you have to send it to them. Those are the legal department. Then here's the questions that we deal with. My team handles. And this right here is the describe the project. And this is where I was telling you that the more detail you provide us in here, the better it is for us to do the assessment. A one-liner, it won't do us any good, and this is only going to delay the process. And we have questions regarding where the information is going to be stored, what kind of, again, we ask question, how is this data classified, and so on. And this is how we determine the risk of the project that's being implemented. We have questions about NERC as well. How many users are we? Sorry about that. How many records are we going to store, and so on. It's very, and if you look at it on the right, it tries to give you explanation of what type of information we're looking to get out of this. Now, you see that also in the service now when you're entering an RITM, you will see that as well. And here's a link of where you can download the sensitive information. The SIVR, sorry, the Sensitive Information Vendor Risk Form, or SIVR. And here's the guidelines, like it is in the source, where the type of SIVR, when you have to do one or not. And this is the service level agreement that we have tried to meet. So for us to process the SIVR, we say about 2 or 3 days. To do the questionnaire, we say about 2 weeks. And the questionnaire, that's the one, that the vendor questionnaire, that's the one that gets sent to the vendor. And as soon as we received it, then we review them, and our SLA is to try to get them all reviewed within 2 weeks. The SIVR, we try to do that within 3 days. And 20 minutes, okay. So basically, I want to leave some time. This is a quick overview of what is that we expect from the SIVR and the questionnaire. And that's what my team does. Now I want to open it up for any questions, any concerns you may have.
Yeah, I had one question. Is it really a project assessment or a vendor assessment? Meaning, like, is this something that we have to do on each project that's applicable, or do we assess a vendor once and then they're approved in a sense for other projects?
Thank you. So I mentioned at the beginning that we are still we're making more changes to the process to make it easier. So one of the things that we are looking into, my team, is to sort of split up the assessment into vendor and service, right? So what that would allow us to do is we will be able to have a list. Let's say we do business with this vendor, and it's very often. So we can assess the vendor and say, okay, this vendor is we have done a lot of business. This is an approved vendor. However, and we will be able to share that with you, right? Eventually, we will be able to share that with you. However, the service, we have to assess the service every time, right? So there's many times where one of the vendors that I like to use as an example is DXC. So we use DXC a lot of times for a staff augmentation. They come in, they give us a contractor, and the contractor is working, and they're part of DXC. Perfect. That's a low risk, basically. It's a staff augmentation. There's nothing to assess. However, we also use DXC to support ASAP, right? That is a different service. That service, it creates a lot of, that's a higher risk service, if you will. SAP is very sensitive, has sensitive information. So we have to assess that service by itself. Forget about DXC, but it's the service. We want to make sure that whatever they're doing as part of that service, it has the security controls that we want to see. Does that explain your answer, your question, sir?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
So we are trying to we're trying to streamline, if you will, the whole process. Instead of sending a whole questionnaire that includes the vendor and all these things, we're trying to split the questionnaire into sort of two pieces. One is for the vendor, the other piece is for the service. And those changes, we are just talking about them. We are looking at the questionnaire and looking at what type of question goes to the vendor, what type of question goes to the service, so that those changes are coming. Another thing that I forgot to mention. So one of the things that we are trying to work on is that this entire process is currently today being managed through Outlook, right? It's emails that we sent out, spreadsheets and whatnot. We actually CSRC purchased a module in ServiceNow called VRM, Vendor Risk Management. That module, we have it in place. We're trying to use it. The SIVR process actually is all inside that ServiceNow. It's no longer emails that we are passing back and forth. We have a couple of people that are using it in ServiceNow, and it is working well. We're still making improvement in that. We also the spreadsheets that I show you, the questionnaire, we actually now manually uploading them into ServiceNow. So we're trying to use the VRM. Obviously, that's not the intent of how the VRM ServiceNow intended to be used. We are putting together a project for this year to enhance some of those capabilities because we're not using it at the full potential. One of the capabilities that it has is that the questionnaire, the vendor questionnaire, we should be able to send it to the vendor automatically within ServiceNow, and the vendor will have access to a portal where they can answer the questions, and there's no longer a need for exchanging emails and Excel spreadsheets and so on. However, because our ServiceNow is not open to the internet, it's a closed environment, that capability is not enabled today. So part of the project that I need to put in is to enable that. I have worked with the ServiceNow team in IT, and they're fully aware of those issues that we are having. So we are planning to put a project together to do that. In addition, there's other capabilities that we want to enhance into ServiceNow that will allow us more workflows. You'll be able to see dashboards. You'll be able to see where your request is sitting at, what is pending, what's not. So all those capabilities, unfortunately, we don't have them today, but it's part of our requirements for the project. And I'm working to gather all the requirements and put the project together for this year. You know, obviously, it will be a third party who will be helping us to put this together. And obviously, we'll be working with IT to help us with this. Okay, any other questions?
I was wondering if you can bring up slide 8 again. I just had a question on that.
Sure. This slide? Right here?
Slide 8.
This is it?
Yeah, let me take a look. I thought I had a question on this. Okay, so the reference to purchase, that's here. I mean, purchase could be purchasing services from a vendor, right? It doesn't mean it's not specific purchase. It could be that as well, correct?
I don't understand your question.
It makes reference a purchase, a nuclear purchase,
Yes.
lease rental. Is a purchase also include purchasing services from a vendor? It doesn't mean a physical purchase, right? It means like a PO, for example.
Yes.
So you know, what if you're doing like a support or consulting service?
Yes. So if it's a new vendor that we have never accessed before, sorry, I don't know what's going on with my mouth. If it's a new vendor we never accessed before, yes, we need to do that, to assess it. If it's like it says here, it's a new purchase order. If it's an existing vendor, renewals, for example, most of them it says no. This is all this information is in the source. So if it's annual maintenance, it's a hardware. We don't need to. A statement of work is no, not applicable. But renewal, yes, if it's a hardware. We just need the SIV. A lot of these things also, we continue to make edits and changes. So I will ask you to constantly check on the source for guidance on some of these things. Because I think some of this we already updated. And again, I'm sorry, I'm recycling this PowerPoint presentation, but the source is accurate. So if you look at the source, let me bring that up.
Okay, any questions for you all around the SIVR process?
So in a lot of the SIVR for this type of purchases, for example, if you buy a hardware and it's a Cisco, that might be a low risk and it will get automatically approved, Lorena. Good.
Okay.
And there's an FAQ questions here, and like I said, the PowerPoint presentation is there. When this was given back in 21, it was recorded, so you can have a better presentation that I'm able to do for you. For this one, everybody was very prepared, and I think it was very good. So they did a much better job than I could for you. But again, if you have any questions regarding this, you can always reach out to me or anybody in my team, or send out an email to the distribution list, and we will be able to respond to you. It doesn't just have to be with an SIVR. You can, any question, you can send it to us and we will try to respond to you. Okay. All right.
Okay. Yuval, thank you so much, for bringing us that knowledge of SIVR process and how that gets embedded when we are procuring any service from any vendor, right? So
Yeah.
to the project managers and the other resources that are attending this meeting in this training. So this is one of the very important interactions that we have with cybersecurity team, especially when we are bringing in the resources or engaging vendors, either on a fixed contract basis or on a time and material basis or on renewals, RFQ, RFP, whatever is the procurement type. When we engage vendor, this is the first step that you should be aware of, that, okay, did I go through the vendor risk assessment? Did I complete the SIVR process? So keep it in mind. And this is what is going to be one of the interaction points with the cybersecurity team. So in order to help you, sorry, 1 minute. Yeah, you'll
Okay,
go ahead.
sorry, Nuri. I just wanted to add, so definitely that's only the SIVR in the questionnaire, right? I definitely advise Naren and recommend that you reach out to Luke's team for the architecture piece, because he's also making improvement in that area, and he has another set of requirements that he will require. And this is applicable for New Jersey and Long Island, by the way.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So I'll just take 30 seconds in order to bring a little bit of aid to all the project managers. So you saw the SGP framework slide that Yuval shared before he started his presentation. We are modifying that or updating it with a swim lane concept, right? We are coming out with this. This is in progress. It's not yet published out. So as you can see, each of these swim lanes will represent the tasks or the deliverables to be done under each of these stages, right? So at each stage, like right now, the cybersecurity risk assessment basically is in the project initiation phase, where we are engaging the vendor. So as a project manager, when you look at these slides that we are going to publish in a couple of weeks, you will see what swim lanes will be important or what swim lanes will be applicable for you when you are in a particular stage, right? So simply you can look through them and say, oh, I'm in project initiation phase. What are all the swim lanes that are applicable? Okay, cybersecurity team, cyber risk assessment is required. Okay, so that gives you a prompt information that you have to go to the cybersecurity team, see what needs to be done and what the deliverables are there from this perspective. Like you all mentioned, cybersecurity architecture review, then the design, once it is getting finalized, what security architecture reviews need to be conducted. So similarly, you have the testing center of excellence. Then you have another one which contains the BCDR, integration team, PIA, audit. So there are multiple swim lanes that are getting engaged into the SGP. So we are going to come up with this aid for you. So you will see at each of these stages what swim lanes are applicable so that you can immediately go and attend to those swim lanes. Okay. This is just I wanted to share what is coming up. We thank Yuval for all the presentation. We will reach out to the cybersecurity team, the other tower where we got the security review, security approval, architecture approvals, etc. And then we may have one more session from them for their presentation. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Yuval. We appreciate. With that, we move to the second special topic of the day, the SGP compliance report, right? So we have been adopting SGP, short form for stage gate process framework, for quite some time, like maybe around 8 to 9 months. We are trying to understand how mature we are in adopting the SGP into our project lifecycle and how we are implementing it during the lifecycle of a project. So in order to help you again, we are coming up with what is called a compliance report. We collect data points on certain of the metrics, basically, to present to you, to the PMs, GPMs, and the director level, that what projects are compliant, are following the SGP framework to the core, and what projects are not following, so that they can revisit their approach and then they can start adopting SGP. So this compliance report is like more of an aid, not to blame anybody or not point faulting. We just wanted to help you with a proactive approach of giving you the details that your project is not adopting some of these SGP stage gate process protocols, processes, governance points, scorecard processes, etc. Okay. So I would now hand over the podium to Jason Yang and Suresh, who will take you through this compliance report and explain you the data points, how the logic we have incorporated to bring out the compliance of SGP. Okay. Over to you, Jason. Suresh.
Great. Thanks, Naren. I think that was a really solid introduction to the stage gate process compliance reporting. Just to reiterate a couple of the points there, this is a new report, and it's going to be a tool for both leadership and individual project teams to check and confirm how well they're doing in following parts of the stage gate process. The report scope is going to be the 2022 initiatives, or the yearly list of current year initiatives. And the source data that's going to be used as part of this report is going to include the current year list of initiatives. It's going to use the scorecards that project teams are preparing and maintaining. and both ServiceNow and P6 data. In later slides, we'll get into where exactly that's going to show up. The cadence for the reporting is going to be a monthly refresh. And at that point, the ops team is going to draw on the latest list of current year initiatives and a fresh extract from the P6 schedule team that cuts across all teams that are maintaining their schedule information there. So at month end, the team's going to reach out to collect those inputs and then produce an updated report that cuts across all of the projects. And so by the end of the 5 business days, we know it's not always going to be the first week, depending on how things work. But the team will then publish the compliance report to a SharePoint location that can be accessed by any individual project teams or leads. There's going to be a number of individuals that are going to be part of making this successful. And so I'd like to go through, how this participation is going to work. Project managers, of course, are going to have a key role. The project managers are largely those that are maintaining their information in ServiceNow, even just the project, project metadata. And again, we'll start looking at which columns specifically. They'll work with the schedulers to make sure that their project schedule information is updated in P6 and has the latest information in that system. And the project managers will submit the scorecards when approaching a stage gate, and as described in the stage gate process playbook, and that's going to be a key part of stage gate process compliance. The schedulers are also going to play a key role with individual project schedulers working with their PMs to make sure that the milestones for the stage gates are recorded and updated in P6. And then the P6 team overall draws on that information to provide some of the key data points that will incorporate into the reporting. The EPMO ops team fills out this picture with tracking and reviewing the scorecards that are submitted by the PMs to the EPMO and producing an updated compliance report at the beginning of each month. I'll now just give an overview of the components of the report. So we've got 3 sections here. The first section is just project information. So as you know from submitting this information about FY22 initiatives, there's basic project metadata, who the individual project manager is, what the ID is after that gets created as a project, who the GPM is, who the director it is that rolls up to it, and the tower. So all this information is going to be pulled into a view so that you can group by the people with whom projects are associated. Then in the second group of information here are the compliance metrics. We'll unpack these at a detailed level, column by column, in the next view. But this group is what's going to be refreshed month on month to determine currently compliant, yes or no. And then the third group of columns here also is useful information related to compliance, but not part of that second group that's currently compliant for this month. And we'll cover why that is in a look at those individual columns. So the first group of project information, this information resides in ServiceNow. We want to make sure that this information is up to date, including just the project manager, which we know sometimes will change over the life of a project, and so needs to be maintained in ServiceNow. Into things that are going to be more frequently updated in part of the compliance report. The first column over to the left here is really an overall metric. So the columns to the right, and apologies, and with this light blue value, this is pulled right from the Excel. It'll actually have columns in context, but the column on the left will be yes if everything else on the right is also yes. So it's compliant if all the other columns are compliant. Then the next project over on the right is, does the project have stage gate process milestone dates? Yes or no? P6 is going to be the source of information for that. So it'll be a check against the P6 export from the schedule team. Has the team identified milestones, milestone dates? The next column that's part of the compliance report is, has a stage gate process scorecard been submitted for the most recent completed phase? This is just based on the scorecard submission to the EPMO, and might not change each month in, month out. It's just a record of what's been submitted in the most recently complete phase. The next column is the baseline project finish date is in the future. So this is a look at whether the project is looking to be on track given what was projected. And it's looking at the P6 data with the baseline M7, milestone 7 finish date versus like the date when the project, when this report was run. And then the last component here is the project committed delivery date is later than the production readiness target. And this also is a look at how things are doing in terms of schedule, with the committed delivery date from ServiceNow being compared to the production readiness milestone finish date in P6. Moving on to the last group of columns here. The first is checking to see if the project started by the planned start date. This one is, either going to be, it did start by the planned start date or it didn't. This isn't something that's going to change, month in, month out. So it isn't something that we wanted to include in the prior group. The next column is the next stage gate process gate planned this month. And again, this is meant to be an informational metric where if a project does have a gate plan that they're planning to hit in the month that the report is run, it's an opportunity for the project team and management and the EPMO to check in and see, does this look like it's on track? Are all the scorecard artifacts associated with the phase shaping up well? Is the team preparing to submit the scorecard so that it can be reviewed and confirmed? And then the final piece is security related, in that does the project have security tasks in the current phase? And so this is also meant to be informational, where as a point for the project team, just a heads up, and then for the security organization as well, to have a look at the projects that they can expect that they should already have heard from or will be hearing from in the course of completing that phase, to deliver one of the artifacts that Naren and Joel gave us a look at in the previous segments. So let me take a pause here that takes us through the list of columns that are going to be part of the report in its initial release. I'd like to go ahead and take questions and see if there's anything that the group would like to revisit in greater detail.
Yeah, I had one. Is this going to apply just to gated projects and not the miscellaneous and routine effort projects?
Well, the formal and informal gated projects certainly. As you know, some of these the components for the report are derived from P6, which is maintained by the schedulers. For this particular report, there's going to need to be a scheduler assigned that would to the project that would work with the PM and maintain that. So it isn't going to be everything that is that has those resources allocated to an initiative. So this particular report is only going to be a subset of initiatives.
Okay. And I was wondering, is there any interest in making the scorecard a web-based tool, or will it continue to be through the Excel
That's a good
file?
question. Maybe I can refer that to Naren to kind of talk about some of the future direction.
Yeah. Thanks, Jason. I know that was a nice presentation. Yeah, to answer the question, right, we are exploring different tools to accommodate the reporting and dashboarding requirements. One of the tools that most of you are aware is the PTS, right, the project tracking system, that we are developing it as an in-house system to capture the project-related data, and also starting from the inception, right, from the business case onwards, it will start having the modules that can capture the project data, financials, accruals, specific features, and also we want to capture some of these compliance reporting. But that's down the line. But as of now, till we get to that stage, we will be developing these dashboards using Excel file. But there is another one dashboarding tool that we are also exploring called QuickSight. So that will be presenting this data in a visual format. It could be a pie chart or a bar chart, or a compliance reporting. Slicing and dicing is a lot easier there. But the underlying data would still be collected in the form of an Excel. So any other questions? This is an effort not to find anything out of compliance and hold anybody responsible, but this is a proactive approach that we want to adopt from EPMO teams, that how we can help the project teams to be on course, right? both on the schedule wise, on the financials, and also to have proper data in ServiceNow or any system that we are going to use, so we can represent these projects, clearly and transparently to the senior leadership team, right? So the effort here is basically to find out some data points and see the SGP adoption is maturing now at a rapid pace, and how we can help to bring that picture to all the project managers, group product managers, and also to flow it to the senior leadership team. So take it as a positive thing that will help you so that you can use this information in order to correct some of the actions or use some of the features on the system to make sure that you are adopting SGP properly. Okay. Any other questions you have, you can always reach us through the EPMO mailbox, or you can come to any of the forums that we always interact with you. We have multiple sessions we are conducting on every week, GPM PM forum, these refreshing special topic forums, or you have the PM trainings that we conduct every month. You can join any one of those things. You can raise your points. You can share your thoughts to make it better. We can always absorb those ideas and then make things better for all these reports that we are trying to generate for your help. And we will also share the location of this compliance report on the SharePoint and how to access it. The other thing that I wanted to also bring out to your attention is the EPMO content on the source is getting restructured. Okay, we are coming up with a new content pages for EPMO. As you know, EPMO has multiple towers, the operations, scheduling, controllers, and the project management towers. What do we do? What are the services and the features that we have? And how can we provide you the reference material for SGP? How to reach out to different templates? All that information is being consolidated onto these new pages that we are creating for EPMO content on the source. Okay, so we'll be coming out very shortly, giving you all the details on the new content on the EPMO SharePoint source, and the compliance reports where they will be located and how to access, make use of them, etc. Okay. If you have any issues in accessing any of these informational sites or informational portals, let us know. We'll give you the needed access. Okay, so those are the two special topics that we wanted to present to you. We will be conducting such sessions in future. We have lined up very interesting sessions in April, where we are bringing in more teams that now are getting embedded with the SGP framework. They will share their processes, how to interact with them, and at what point of time we need to engage them so that the deliverables at each of the gates are completely taken care. Okay. If you don't have any further questions, so that's where we conclude this session. Anybody thinking about any questions or open or clarifications, you can always reach out to us. Okay. So thank you all, and have a good evening, and I look forward for more topics as special topics from EPMO sessions. Okay. Thank you.